What's up, guys? So a few weeks ago, I talked about a bunch of games that were important to my childhood. You know, games that kind of helped mold me into the kind of gamer that I am today. And well, while those games were important to my childhood and important to making me the kind of gamer I am today, those weren't the only games that had influence on me. I think it goes for all of us that we had a bunch of different games that influenced us as we grew up. And I think that if any of us tried to pick the 3 or 5 most important games to our childhoods, then that would be really something that would be really hard to do. So much like last time, these aren't the 5 most important games to my childhood, but these games that I'm going to talk about today were 5 of the important games to my childhood. Each one has its place in my heart for some reason, whether or not the games are actually any good, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. So that's what we're doing today. This is 5 more games that were important to me growing up. Much like last time, this is going to be in no specific order, and we're also not going to talk about games that were important to everyone's growing up. You know, no Zeldas, no Marios. There's no point in talking about those because everyone who played those, it was important to them, I feel. And this round is going to be slightly less obscure than the last round, I feel, but these still were important to me, and I want to share that with you guys. I have 3 N64 cartridges here, but technically it's only 2 of them we're talking about, and I'll explain why in a minute. But the first one I want to talk about is Pokémon Snap. Now, if you had told my parents that an important game to my growing up was going to be about photography, they might would have laughed at you a little bit, or at the very least given you a strange look, because photography is not something that I've ever shown, that I've ever had a huge interest in. But there's something about being able to go around a world, even if it's on rails, you know, being able to explore a world that's filled with Pokemon that you can actually see and interact with in 3 dimensions like this. Because looking back on this, it's a wonder this ever took off, but you got to think about why this and what I would consider its sister game, Pokemon Stadium, as to why these were so important to us as kids. Whenever we were playing these games growing up, Pokemon looked like this. So to be able to see all these creatures that we knew about and had seen sprites for and had bonded with in our Game Boy games, to be able to see them in fully 3D just existing in their world, it was a wild experience to childhood me. Same with Pokemon Stadium, being able to actually watch these creatures fight each other instead of just a sprite wiggling a little bit on a screen. I'll always remember the fun times I had with Pokemon Snap, even if the point of a game like this is kind of arbitrary nowadays. The next N64 game that I want to talk about is Chameleon Twist. So this is a game that I can look at as an adult and say that it's not that great. The lens of childhood is what made this game fun. Whereas something like Pokemon Snap or Mario 64 or several of these other games, you can go back and play and have a good time with today. Chameleon Twist, without the nostalgia of having grown up with it, is hard to play. Not because the game itself is hard, but because the game itself kind of controls badly. But this is still an important game to my growing up because this is one of the few games that I remember us renting that we never actually bought. I remember going to the movie gallery, which was the video rental store here, and picking this up and trying it out and really enjoying it. But for whatever reason, it didn't interest me enough to want this to be one of the games that we actually got a copy of to keep. So actually being able to play this as an adult was limited to emulators until actually very recently, like the past 2 years or so. I think I have a video I think I mentioned this in a video way back in one of the early pickup videos that I did. But yeah, Chameleon Twist. Not a great game to play today, but still very important to me growing up. All right, so the next one is an N64 game that I'm holding here, but it's not the one I actually want to talk about. What I'm holding here is Gauntlet Legends, but what I want to talk about is Gauntlet Dark Legacy on the GameCube. I just don't have a copy of that. My sister does. For anyone who's not played Gauntlet, you are traveling through a castle. It's a Gauntlet style. It's hard to describe a game whenever the game itself is what defined that style of gameplay. You and up to 3 other people go through this fantasy world, and you just fight hordes and hordes of baddies trying to get to the ends of the levels. I don't actually remember the plot of Gauntlet because that wasn't the point of Gauntlet. Either way though, I remember spending a lot of hours, me and my sister, playing through the stages and leveling up our characters and trying to finish this game. We did actually finish it. We did actually beat the game, but I don't think we ever did everything. But we did fight and destroy like the big bad of the game, but there was some extra stuff after that, I think, that we never actually got around to doing. I just remember us having a good time playing it. It was a game that was introduced to us by my cousin Joey that I've talked about in the past. The three of us played the PlayStation 2 version of it, and she wound up getting the GameCube version for Christmas one year because she really enjoyed it. And it was a lot of fun for us to go through it, though I hate the stupid death guys that can only be killed with magic potions. Those guys can suck it. Next up on the games I want to talk about this week is Pikmin. For anyone who doesn't know what Pikmin is, you crash land on a planet, presumably Earth. Your ship breaks apart on impact. You recruit these carrot-looking dudes as you go through the world to try and recover your lost ship parts. You have 30 days to do it, otherwise your life support systems are going to fail. And yeah, Pikmin was probably my introduction to what we classified as a real-time strategy game, because the shtick of Pikmin is you have 30 in-game days to actually beat the game. The thing is, each day is 13 and a half minutes. And once the day starts, the timer doesn't stop. Like, you can pause the game, but the timer keeps going. And when that timer ticks down to 0, the day is over, regardless of if you're done with what you're doing or not. It's funny, I remember getting this game as a kid and not actually liking it. I got it shortly after it came out, and I feel like I was a little too young to appreciate real-time strategy like that, because you had to be efficient. You had to multitask, and I was not very good at doing that as a kid. So I kind of bounced off of it and didn't return to it until, I want to say I was like 14 or 15, where it really clicked with me and I really started enjoying this, not just this game, but this style of game. And yeah, Pikmin stands today as one of my favorite series. I still haven't played 4 yet. I just replayed 1 and 2 fairly recently and finally finished 3. 4 is on the list and I will get to it soon enough. And lastly, this game is the one that actually made me think that I should revisit this topic this week, because I got to thinking about it and wanting to replay it. The 5th important game to my childhood that we're talking about this week is Shadow of the Colossus. I know a lot of people know of Shadow of the Colossus. A lot of people have played Shadow of the Colossus. If you haven't played it, please find the time to do so. It's short, it's under 10 hours, and it is truly one of my favorite games I've played. Because Shadow of the Colossus is trying to give you more of an experience than it is trying to be just a fun game to play. It's trying to make you feel. And I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to spoil anything about it. But to give the gist of it, your friend, girlfriend, lover, whatever you want to call her, appears to be dead, and you have brought her body to this forbidden land where forbidden magic exists to try and find a way to bring her back to life. That is the point of what you're there trying to do. You go around the world trying to defeating all of these giant creatures to allow this other giant creature to have their power back, so that way they can grant you your wish. That's all I want to say about the plot of the game, because again, it's a game that kind of drip feeds you the story, and it's just a really well done experience game. The reason this one's so important to me is because this is the first one that I actually played where I could recognize that video games could also be an art form. And I've gone on to play other games that I feel that way about: BioShock Infinite, Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us. But the first one that made me feel that way was Shadow of the Colossus, and it will always stand as one of my favorite games because of that. And just for proof that it is one of my favorite games, I do have the PlayStation 2 version, I have the PlayStation 3 remaster, and I have the PS4 remake. I love Shadow of the Colossus, and if you haven't played it, you really should. But yeah, that's 5 more games that were important to my upbringing. It's fun to actually sit and talk about playing games in these videos, because I don't do enough of that for this to be an old school gaming channel, and I want to start doing a bit more of that. I have some ideas that I'm working on, so look forward to those in the near future. But other than that, what were some games that were important to y'all coming up? Post it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. But I think that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I look forward to bringing you even more stuff just like this as the days go on. So again, thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one, y'all.